lose. They've got a 3-game lead in the loss column, but Baylor, West Virginia, Iowa State have all proven to be worthy adversaries. Hi again, everyone. Bob Wischusen here with Fran Fraschilla. Holly Rowe, of course, will join us in just a moment. What a week it's been for the Mountaineers. 2 brutal games, both going to overtime, losing a 14-point lead at Allen Fieldhouse and losing the game, losing a late 6-point lead on Saturday to Texas Tech, winning in double overtime. Do efforts like that wear a team out? What do we see tonight?
I look at the bright side. How many teams in the country could be up 14 at Allen Fieldhouse? These lessons will help them going forward down the stretch and into postseason play, Bob. They've played some very tough opponents in this conference, and it does wear on you.
Well, Holly Rose, speaking of a short bench, West Virginia, they played plenty of players, but one short tonight potentially.
Well, after that double overtime game, there are going to be even more minutes put on these starters tonight after Issa Ahmad experienced some back problems late in that game. He did not return, and he's been in treatment all day today, but he just couldn't make it happen. Back spasms in his back. I spoke with the athletic trainer. He said that it's just something they're trying to work for. He is 6'8", guys, and so this is a big drop-off with Daxter Miles Jr. starting in his place at just 6'3" against that big front line of Texas. Keep your eyes on that.
Issa Ahmad averages just under 12 points and a little over 4 rebounds per game. But it's the collective effort, isn't it, Fran? They play 11 players, obviously 10, maybe 11 tonight. We'll see if maybe Amachi Bender comes off the bench and gives you some minutes if you're Bob Huggins that Ahmad would normally give you. But this Press Virginia effort requires maximum bodies.
I'm not worried. They got some freshman potential stars that we're going to see tonight, like Kanate and West. I don't think Bob Huggins is worried either.
Miles in and out for 3 to start the game. Daxter Miles, by the way, had 2 monster putbacks against Texas Tech in the overtime win on Saturday. Javon Carter with the rebound. Miles trying to go coast to coast and drag the pivot foot. Well, Bob Huggins in his 10th year. The only 2 active coaches that have more career wins than Bob Huggins are Mike Krzyzewski and Jim Bayard.
Not a bad twosome. Bob Huggins will be in the Hall of Fame at some point. Incredible job at a number of different places.
Out of control is Kerwin Roach, but he is able to work his way to the free throw line as Miles commits the foul.
One of the things you're seeing early from Texas, attack. Don't let that pressure stymie you in the backcourt. Get it up quickly.
So Kerwin Roach, part of the Big 12 all-newcomer team as a freshman, along with Eric Davis last season. And Shaka Smart saying earlier today that the learning curve for these young players, not just the freshmen, but even the sophomores, like a Roach and a Davis, say, for example, he thought that they thought it would probably be a little easier for them this season, but now it's about how you respond. Having a tough season going into their junior years next year, what have they learned?
Yeah, it's going to be a big offseason for Texas. They have young talent, more on the way, but nobody expected this kind of season on the 40 acres.
Tariq Phillip leans in. That is swatted by Shaq Claire.
And that's a guy that's had a good senior year. The transfer from Maryland, been a good leader for this young team.
Davis knocks down a jumper.
And he was worked hard by Nathan Adrian, who oftentimes will come out of that press and still stay on the point guard. Tough shot, but a good shot.
Tariq Phillip lost it. Jarrett Allen found it. Here comes Roach. Out of control, but fouled again. So he'll go back to the line.
Oh, one thing you like early from the Longhorns, they are on the attack. Talked to the coaching staff today, Bob. They said, hey, best way to handle West Virginia's pressure and press is try to score on it. And so far, they've done a good job of pushing the pace.
Yeah, turnabout's fair play, right? West Virginia already with a couple of turnovers. They only average 12.5 turnovers per game. 3rd best in the Big 12. As opposed to Texas, 2nd to last in terms of turnovers per game.
You know, just getting back to Davis and Roach, I remember talking to an assistant coach, former assistant coach in this league, and he said, the seniors, the guys that have come through this league, you don't go from your freshman year to starring as a senior. It's a process. I think a lot of these guys think it happens easily, like they're going to be the next Buddy Hield or Monte Morris. It's a process. These young sophomores have to learn that.
Nathan Adrian needs some help with the shot clock down to 8. Tariq Phillip creates some space. That's in and out. And Jarrett Allen, another rebound. West Virginia, 2.5 minutes in, unable to get on the board. Here comes Roach, pushing tempo again.
Yep. Good speed.
Andrew Jones gives it up. Jack Clare able to lay it home. Bob Huggins is displeased with the first 2 minutes and 45 seconds, to say the least. He's letting his players hear about it.
How can you tell?
There are signs. You'll pick up on them if you glance to your left.
Body language.
Macon? Yes. He had a big game. Double-double in the win over Texas Tech, and he finally breaks the ice for West Virginia.
Yeah, we got a chance to see that, Bob. I thought the energy level that he displayed on Saturday was really helpful to the Mountaineers.
Allen's pass challenged by Tariq Phillip. Shot clock at 5. Andrew Jones needs some help. Gives it up. Allen, does he realize the shot clock's winding down? Air ball, that's a shot clock violation, but it falls in the hands of Carter anyway. Javon Carter, blocked, taken away by Roach, flips it to Eric Davis. Davis, coast to coast, what a start for the Longhorns.
I'm waiting for Bob Huggins to call the first time out, but he's going to let his team try to work it out. I love the intensity of Texas early, and what hustle on the defensive end.
Adrian with the shot clock down to 8. Tariq Phillip thought about a 3. Gives it up to Adrian. He's going to have to force one up. Over Allen. That comes up short. Davis, step back. That's good. It's a double-digit lead for the Horns. What a start for Texas.
This is like a prize fight. And right now, Texas has knocked West Virginia on the canvas. Let's see how they react.
Pretty good reaction as Adrian hits a triple.
And that allows them to set up the pressure.
And it creates a turnover. Tariq Phillip fouled by Jack Clare. West Virginia's specialty made basket, set up the pressure, get the turnover, and change momentum.
Punch in.
Now, Holly, how about this hot start for the Horns?
Well, you know, Texas has been so down this year, not the year that they expected, but the players had a players-only meeting at their hotel today, and they decided to dedicate the rest of this season to their seniors. They know they've only got possibly 5 games left in a Texas uniform. They're not pleased with the way they've played so far this season, but they can play better those 5 games, and I think we're seeing a residual of that today with this hot start against West Virginia.
Jack Clare sits down, replaced by James Banks. So Jarrett Allen and James Banks, the two 6'10", 6'11" big men, and both freshmen on the floor for UT.
When you think about it, Bob, there are only about 12 teams in the country younger than this Texas team. And this is going to be Shaka Smart's first losing season. But a nucleus, a good recruiting class coming in, a terrific transfer who's already sitting out in Dylan Otsutowski. I expect Texas to be back quickly.
Foul call. Jacob Young pushed off. Jacob Young, a freshman from Houston, of course his older brother Joseph, the 2015 Pac-12 Player of the Year at Oregon.
Dad wasn't a bad player either. Michael Young, a Phi Slamma Jamma fame.
Has his number retired by Houston. Swatting it away is James Banks as he rejects Tavon Myers.
Boy, what really impressed me there was the block shot, and then big Jarrett Allen got out quickly in transition. Two young big men.
And Jarrett Allen, of all the players that are in this game tonight, he's really the one with the decision to make. We'll talk about that a little bit later on. The number 15 overall recruit on our ESPN 100 and the number 1 overall center, 31 in the middle of your screen there for Texas. McDonald's All-American. Will he head to the NBA? Or will he come back for his sophomore year in Austin? Right now projected by our own Chad Ford on his big board to be right in the middle of the first round.
Little high in my opinion, but a lot of scouts here tonight, and he's playing his best basketball in the Big 12.
Kendall Yancey missed everything. Out of control, losing the dribble, Javon Carter somehow able to recover to Phillip. Brandon Watkins taken away by Banks. Just snuffed the shot out.
Banks is very raw, but long and athletic.
An offensive foul called, looks like on Kerwin Roach.
Watch young James Banks. Watkins going to go up to shoot it. Banks leaves late. Straight up. That was easy.
But Holly, how about the injury situation tonight for West Virginia?
That's right. They're down one starter tonight who had started every single game. Issa Ahmad, their 6'8" sophomore, will not play in this game due to back spasms that started out late in their game Saturday against Texas Tech. They did start Daxter Miles, a 6'3" junior, early in this game, but they felt the size of Texas was hurting them on the front line, so they have gone to Brandon Watkins. Fran, you said he's a little raw, but at 6'9", they need a little bit more size against this Longhorn front line.
And Watkins has been a good player, as has Lamont West, the young man who just shot that ball.
How did things change tonight for the Mountaineers without Ahmad?
Well, he's mercurial, you know. 27 against Kansas, and sometimes the coaching staff wants more out of him. They think he disappears.
Young from the corner. Offensive rebound. And the play. Jarrett Allen. How about that?
One of the things you like about this kid is he's got a really good ticker. And I talked to him today. He said the biggest thing I've learned this season in college is how much harder I had to play than when I was in high school. Perfect example right there.
Tavon Myers. The putback won't go. And it looks like Brandon Watkins draws the foul. Again, it's on Jacob Young, his second.
I want you to watch this, Bob. Look at that long reach and then the easy finish. And we documented this early in the year. Watch him go to the glass and sneak inside of Adrian. Remember, we charted offensive rebounds attempted. The more you sneak in and get to the glass, make the effort, the more they're just going to fall in your lap, even by accident sometimes.
For a player to grab 3 or 4 offensive rebounds in a game, how many, when you were charting it, did you have to teach that player? Look, you want 4 or 5 rebounds a game offensively, you have to attempt X number of rebounds.
You have to go as often as you can. And for me, a good number was I wanted 20 offensive rebounds attempted a night from somebody like Jarrett Allen. Now, your teammates are going to grab some, the opponent's going to grab some, because you don't want to get in foul trouble. But the more effort you make, the more you're going to come up with. That's just common sense.
Made free throw helps set up the press, and Allen uses his height to keep it away from the guards, Myers and Carter.
Well, that might have been over and back.
It might have been over and back. It's a turnoff nonetheless.
Can't leave the front court in the air and land in the back court. You were right about Bender. He's in early, the freshman from Poland.
Already the rotation changes without Issa Ahmad. Is Lamont West.
If you're a West Virginia fan, Beto Bolden, Lamont West, and Sags Kanate have made really good contributions as freshmen this year. Eventually, they're going to be big-time Big 12 players.
to Jones. Andrew Jones hits a triple.
Three-pointer by Jones.
And that young man has improved over the course of the season.
Has he ever? He has been in double figures 12 of the last 14 games. Basically, since Tevin Mack was suspended for a violation of team rules by Shaka Smart, Andrew Jones has been a 14-point a game. Talked about making an impact as a freshman. Chance for a 4-point play, doesn't hurt.
Lamont West, remember the name. He's only 18 years old, redshirted a year ago. He'll come out of nowhere like guys like Niang, Buddy Hield, and the others in this league.
Holly Rose spent some time with the Maniacs earlier today. You don't want to miss that.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is presented by eBay.
Jarrett Allen is transported here from the 70s, and that he reminds them of Jackie Moon. Yes, that is Will Ferrell from the great movie Semi-Pro.
I like the one, Bob Ross, the late Bob Ross, of course, the painter, who we all would enjoy the soothing sounds of. Wherever it was, Jarrett Allen got the inspiration for the hair.
I just don't think Mr. and Mrs. Allen appreciate their son being called the bum of the game.
How about Lamont West with the block? Carter hits. Defense to offense for West Virginia.
And West Virginia with 3 freshmen out there right now.
Kerwin Roach gets pinned on his way to the bucket.
Bender, another freshman.
The shot clock may have reset. It looks like Darren George, the official, on the far side, noticed that as Kerwin Roach's shot was blocked, the shot clock reset. The blocked shots, the story. These last 2 trips for West Virginia.
How about Magic Bender? Magic Bender, and ball did not hit the rim, so it'll stay. But what a block by the freshman from Poland. Went to prep school in Virginia. Bob, you and I have said it. We talk about the upperclassmen, you know, Carter and Phillip and those guys. This is a good freshman class.
Well, both teams, I think, have examples. Machi Bender might be a good one. We obviously have seen Lamont West, where your freshman year in college basketball can still be a developmental year. You don't have to average 18 and 10 as a freshman.
Exactly. Well, most leagues, in this league in particular, not a lot of one-and-done guys. You just love watching over the course of time guys grow up. As I mentioned, there's 3 freshmen out there for Bob Huggins right now, all front-line players.
Roach, the long miss to Carter.
Got to guard Lamont West because he could really shoot the 3-ball.
Carter shakes and bakes, comes up way short. Long rebound, ends up with Tavon Myers.
Yeah, Myers, a senior who saved their bacon in Austin with a career high.
Carter leans in and draws the foul.
You know, that's one of those drives. I'd love to see that again because, you know, it's hard to tell whether the defender's standing straight up and playing vertical.
Just have to make sure Carter's okay.
Does he move? Because he's allowed his space. He's got to jump straight up. Gosh darn it, I think he's standing still.
Chaclair called for his second. He's in the restricted area.
Well, there
Comes
you go.
over
There
as
you go.
the secondary defender inside
exactly
that
right.
restricted area. It's
Exactly
an
right,
automatic
Bob.
call.
If he jumps, Bob, he's good. You're exactly right.
And some early foul trouble now for Shaka Smart to manage, as Chaclair has to head to the bench with his second foul. So here comes James Banks. And Mo Isom comes in for the first time as well for Texas. And Isom is a player that seems to be more and more interesting as this year moves forward for Shaka Smart as well.
Well, he grew up in Austin, went to high school there, was not recruited by Texas. He's a graduate student, played at Little Rock, Didn't make a ton of starts there, was hurt early in the year, and has played the last 10 or so games. Good shooter. Gave him a good lift on Saturday against K-State.
Roach gets some help from Andrew Jones to break the press. Here's Isom. Hit the backboard.
One thing you like about West Virginia, they don't take a lot of bad shots. Watch the ball. That ball will move side to side unless Meyer shoots it.
Offensive rebound, Macon. Carter allows the flyby. Can't get it to go. Adrian keeps it alive, but beaten to the edge by Eric Davis. Foul called in the lane away from the ball, and that's going to go against Elijah Macon. And tomorrow night, another Super Tuesday doubleheader. We start in the SEC at 7 Eastern. South Carolina takes on number 13 Florida. The Gators have won 8 in a row. And then Indiana, Iowa. Cap Super Tuesday in the Big Ten. It's on ESPN, as well as streaming live on the ESPN app, and watch ESPN.
If you want to watch that Florida-South Carolina game, Florida lost in Columbia by 4. Bob, they went 0 for 17 from 3 in that game. Unlikely for that to happen tomorrow night.
Texas with their 5th turnover.
Shaka Smart, the former Florida Gator assistant coach to Billy Donovan, not liking that call.
Technical foul called on Shaka Smart.
Technical foul.
Shaka Smart seems more perplexed he got that technical than he is upset. Darren George teed him up from the opposite side of the court, and Shaka Smart's trying, I think, to tell the officials, I wasn't yelling at the official, I was trying to talk to my team.
Well, it's hard to tell, Bob. I personally thought he was not happy with the call at the previous end of the court, and I didn't see the call. I know this. I never liked as a coach, if an official missed a call, for you then to tee me because I was upset. So I don't know if he had a right to be or not, but he does far less barking on the sideline than most coaches in the league, and they do get away with it a little bit more.
It's an 11-0 West Virginia run to come from 10 down to now take a 4-point lead. West seals inside and strikes.
Boy, how good is Lamont West, and how good will he be at the point of that press next year? Remember, West had 21 against Oklahoma State earlier in the year, and big at Virginia.
Roach missed everything. Carter. With the finish, and he was looking for a 3-point play. Allen down the lane, couldn't throw it home. But a foul call. Challenged by Zach Konate.
What you like about Allen, however, you're right, Bob. I just love that he's trying to dunk this. We've seen Konate really be a nice rim protector, but I like that Allen has the ferocity to go to the basket. This is something he's learned over the course of his freshman year.
Bob Huggins was pointing up at the big monitor on the scoreboard hanging over the court and telling the officials, no foul there. He saw the replay and thought Konate got all ball.
Kendall Yancey checks in for the Longhorns.
Nathan Adrian sits down. Kendall Yancey comes in for Texas as he replaces Mo Isom. Tariq Phillip back in for West Virginia. And now Allen will take a seat. And Banks will come back on for Texas. A 15-0 run for West Virginia a moment ago. And it was all Javon Carter and Lamont West. They scored all 15 points.
Little 2-3 zone now by Texas. Let's see if that changes the tempo, because you're right, Bob. They got going. West Virginia.
There's West. Wide open. Keep knocking down threes.
Wait till he grows up. He doesn't even know what he's doing yet.
Looks like he's got an idea tonight.
No, I'll tell you, he's come a long way in a year. I've told a number of my NBA buddies about him, and he's not on anybody's radar yet, but give him time.
Shot clock under 10. Roach will drive it and lay it in.
He'll be in the blogs tomorrow, trust me.
You might be too.
No, it's fun. You watch these guys all year, and it's not all the guys that are always highly ranked that have become the pro prospects.
West again. 15 in the first half for Lamont West.
And it's not an aberration.
Davis can't answer. Out of bounds. Off of Texas. Good hustle by Javon Carter. And what a night it's already been for Lamont West. His 6th game this season in double figures. A great start for Texas, led by Jared Allen. But the responding 12 BPI, powered by Microsoft Cloud. And Fran, our metric at ESPN, the BPI, I think reflects what most of the country thinks about the Big 12, and that is, it is a very deep league. Obviously, West Virginia and Kansas, the class of the league. Now, you could disagree with number 3 and number 10. That basically flip-flops where West Virginia and KU are in the top 25 poll. Having said that, though, the overall theme being depth, 8 of the 10 teams in the league ranked in the top 50 in our BPI.
And I can't wait to talk to Joey Brackets in the second half of this game. He'll give us some more insight, but what we've seen all year is the bottom of the league. There's no easy game. You go to 5, 6, 7, 8, and I think anybody can beat anybody at least 1 through 8, Bob, and we've seen that this year.
Foul called on Macon as he jumped out on Kerwin Roach.
West Virginia foul call at number 45.
And Joe Lunardi will join us coming up in the second half to take a look at how things at this time of year, which are really his time of year as we move towards Selection Sunday, he thinks will shape up in terms of how many teams and what seeds will go to Big 12 groups.
And remember, this is a rebuilding year in the Big 12. Wait till next year. I've been saying it for 2 years now.
Timeout called by Texas, as again struggling with the press of West Virginia. We'll come back in 30 seconds to Morgantown.
Welcome to Stouffer's Fit Kitchen. Prime cuts of meat, 25 grams of protein, and savory mouth-watering sides. It's the perfect balance of delicious and nutritious, making it just the right fit for you. Stouffer's Fit Kitchen meals. This is fit.
I have a way better deal here, 10 nuggets for $1.49. I think 2 full Whopper meals for $10 is clearly the better deal. He wears glasses and he can't see which is the better deal. You want these glasses? No, I don't.
Get 2 Whopper meals for $10 or 10 nuggets for $1.49. Only at Burger King.
Bob Wischusen, Fran Fraschilla, Holly Rowe back in Morgantown on Big Monday as West Virginia trailed by 10 in the early moments of this game, but led by Lamont West. They have come from 10 down with a 21-3 lead over the last 5 minutes or so.
Lamont West grew up in Cincinnati. His senior year in high school, Bob, he played for Sharman White at Miller Grove in Atlanta, one of the great programs. And when he came here last year, he was 17 years old, and he was a long way from being a college player. Wait till he starts growing up.
Tough shot. Eric Davis comes up short. Run out for Dexter Miles.
That's why with all these seniors at West Virginia, the 3 or 4 that play, we said at the very beginning of the game, don't worry, there's more ammunition on the way.
Miles turns it over, taken away by Kendall Yancey. Off to Roach. Somehow able to finish, plus the foul. What a reverse by Kerwin Roach And he's got a chance for a three-point play.
He didn't even have to dribble. And a nice find by Yancey, who started that play with the steal. Watch Roach now. This is a triple jumper, state champion. And I love that he used the other side of the rim. He gets hit on the head and a good finish. PhD, proper hand development right there. The way he spun that ball with his right hand on the other side of the backboard. I don't know much about track, but 50 feet, 6 inches and a quarter in a triple jump sounds, that's half court. Look at that. That's half of a basketball court.
Roach has a team-high 9 right now for Texas as I continue to learn from the mayor of the Big 12. Tariq Phillip looking for some room. Tavon Myers one-on-one with Roach, and Roach picks his pocket.
Remember what we've seen from West Virginia? They have a tendency lately, Bob, to let you back in the game.
Lamont West called for the foul, trying to body up Jarrett Allen underneath. That's his second foul. And Wednesday night, catch 4 Hall of Fame coaches and their teams in action. Starts at 7 Eastern in the Dome. Jim Boeheim and Syracuse taking on Coach K and Duke. And then it's off to Chapel Hill for Rick Pitino, squaring off with UNC, Louisville, and North Carolina. That's Wednesday night, ESPN, as well as streaming live on the ESPN app, and watch ESPN. West off the mark that time. Rebound pulled down by James Banks as Chase Harler is in the game for the first time for West Virginia. And a good challenge at the rim. Here comes Javon Carter.
Yeah, Harler, a freshman, terrific high school player a year ago in Wheeling.
Tariq Phillip blocked. Allen came over, challenged the shot, and the rebound pulled down by Banks.
It's a feisty Longhorn group, isn't it?
Andrew Jones. Here comes Carter. Goes right at Davis. Finger roll is good. Javon Carter already in double figures for the 21st time this season. Another clock issue. Joe DeRosa looked up, saw the clock frozen, realized that it needs to be adjusted. Holly?
Well, think about what an interesting night this is for Andrew Jones of Texas. His sister.
Hopefully that they can get the clock malfunctions straightened out now for the rest of the night, so we have no more unnecessary stoppages, because when these two teams have been able to go without clock malfunctions to worry about, the pace has been terrific.
It has.
Allen inside. Score the basket. Goaltending is called as Konate and Machi Bender were both up trying to challenge the shot of Jarrett Allen.
West Virginia's done a good job of taking away Allen tonight, but this is a good post feed. Really nicely done, Bob, because he set up well and the pass led him to the basket. Allen's had to work tonight because they have really done a good job of crowding him inside.
Shot clock winding down again for West Virginia. Machi Bender with the shot clock at 5. Goes at Banks and gets blocked again. Bender, a soft flip, that won't go. Out of bounds, it looks like off the horns. West Virginia ball when we come back. An 8-point lead for the Mountaineers here in Morgantown.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Phillips 66, proud sponsor of Big 12 basketball.
Tim? Hey.
Well, right now, 7 teams projected from this league by Joe to end up in the NCAA tournament field. And I would have to say that's reflective of how much respect this league, Fran, has gotten for its depth around the country this year.
Yeah, and I don't think Iowa State's under the radar because they're playing really well. The team that's under the radar in this league is Oklahoma State, who started out 0-5 and now are in serious contention for an NCAA bid. And I got to tell you, Bob, I don't know if you saw it the other night. You were traveling. That Bedlam game in Stillwater was a phenomenal game. Oklahoma led most of that game, and then Juwan Evans took over down the stretch. But two really good young teams.
Andrew Jones just fouled Lamont West before West Virginia could even inbound the ball. First on Jones, but of course that puts Lamont West at the free throw line with Texas over the limit.
When you look at Lamont West, he's got a perfect shooting stroke. He's got length. He's 6'8". You can tell he's got long arms. He's active, and he's just a baby. So you're trying to figure out what he's going to be like 3 years from now.
Turnover off the press. Carter able to finish.
Only takes one mistake, and it can cascade.
Davis for three. Knocks it down.
Good find by Roach. Little zone by Texas. Looks that way. Let's see. Nope, their man. Nice
Bender,
cut.
backdoor cut, and the extra pass to Canante. Terrific job by Tariq Phillip.
Great screen and a great read of the screen on the back cut. Defender played high, cutter went low.
And a foul by Carter on the press. So that will be free throws at the other end for Texas. How about the ball movement, though, by the Mountaineers?
Yeah, great cut. The ball finds the open man. Watch the cut over the top. And good little touch pass there by Carter to Canate.
Shooting the bonus for Texas, Kerwin Roach.
18 fouls apiece, so it's a 1-and-1 for Roach. Can't hit it. Carter sets up Bender. Air ball. Canate. Might have been an air ball. Turns into a nice pass.
How many times does that happen, right? Defense expects it, hits the rim. Canate, what a body he's got. Body by Jake.
Allen throws it down.
The dunk of the year. The dunk of the year in the league. Oh, my goodness. I'm in shock.
The backboard to our left is still wobbling a little bit from that dunk by Jared Allen.
Oh, my goodness. A facial.
Canate. Line drive. Jumper rattles home.
Okay. You going to dunk on me? I'm going to drop the J in your mug. Oh, I hope he got a manicure with that facial.
Kerwin Roach being harassed by Phillip.
Let's get a dead ball. I want to see the highlight.
Jones for three. Back tap right to Carter. West, another triple. Goes down. In the first half for Lamont West.
He's now up to 58 on the draft blogs.
It's like the Dow Jones, you're keeping track?
Yes.
Another steal, this time Canate rips off the entrance pass intended for Jared Allen.
Well, the Mountaineers have woken up after that slow start.
Carter from the corner, way short. That time Canate couldn't grab what could have been another pass.
It might have been a pass to Canate, who knows?
Kerwin Roach off to Jones. Saved by Banks, but right to Canate. Carter crosses over. Konate called for an over-the-back foul. The whistle that Fran was looking for, so we could see this again.
Watch this, man. Look at that dunk. You talk about reach. That's 76 right there. And we know Konate is a shot blocker. Oh, my goodness. You know, we talked to the coaching staff today, Bob, and there's all this talk about, is he ready for the NBA? How high will he go? He's not going to play much next year in the league as a rookie if he does come out. But what Shaka Smart and Darren Horn said, wait till he's 24 or 25. That's the thing about this kid. Wait till he grows up. Do you think Jackie Moon could do that? You think Jackie Moon could dunk like that?
I actually like Jared Allen's hair even more than Jackie Moon's.
I do too.
That was one of the musings brought together by the WVU Maniacs that Holly spent time with earlier today. It's a very creative student section. And now it looks like a timeout will be called by West Virginia, setting up this last shot potentially before the end of the first half. Well, Jared Allen in Big 12 play. 16 points, 9.9 rebounds per game, 1.7 blocks per game. This is obviously a Texas team that has struggled this season. Obviously, they're young. Shaka Smart is in the midst of a rebuilding project. But he, at the very least, has to be thinking, if Jared Allen comes back next year and this whole team grows up and gets a year older and he gets his incoming recruiting class to add to this group as well, how good could Texas be next year with Allen?
Well, the big thing is not Allen as much as getting a point guard, and Matt Coleman is coming in, a young man from Oak Hill Academy. They have some other quality recruits and a good transfer sitting out. This young man's going to have a difficult decision. We'll talk about it in the second half.
I think something's wrong with Bob Huggins. He is down on his knees, and now they're going to have the medical staff come out and take a look at Bob Huggins. The players were startled, and they wait. And Shaka Smart's actually looking down the bench along with Keith Kimball, one of the officials, and they were both asking Bob Huggins if he's okay. And so maybe just a little lightheaded, able to shake it off. And now we're down to the last 20 seconds of the first half. Carter gets a screen. To the corner. James Bolden, airball. And that should, as a shot clock violation, still leave a few tenths of a second on the clock for Texas to maybe have a catch and shoot opportunity before halftime.
Dax Miles checks in for the Mountaineers.
Well, if they leave it at 2/10, then all they can do is tap the basketball, and that will end the first half off the fingertips of Allen and out of bounds. So early on, Texas had a 10-point lead. West Virginia completely flips the script, and they lead by 14 at halftime. So it's time for the halftime report. Carl Ravitch back in the studio to anchor the halftime break. 14-point lead on Big Monday for West Virginia. Ravi, what was wrong with Coach Huggins?
Look, guys, I was able to speak with Coach Huggins as he came out of the locker room at halftime. I said, Coach, what happened? He said, my defibrillator went off. I do believe it gave him a little bit of a shock. He kept clutching his hand to his heart there. But I have seen a man come out of the stand who I believe to be his personal doctor. They've been consulting with Coach, as well as the athletic director and some other personnel. Coach says, I'm fine. He has tried to reassure his players that he is okay to continue coaching in this game.
Well, if I were his players, I would play really hard. Don't turn the ball over. Make every free throw so that coach doesn't get agitated anymore tonight, but we know that's not going to happen, Bob. There you see Billy Hahn, his longtime assistant.
Texas basketball starts the second half.
Well, the good news for Bob Huggins is his team came from 10 down in the first half to take a 14-point lead, and doing it, Fran, very much the way that West Virginia does things. Their pressure created turnovers. There were times a very young Texas team was helter-skelter. Here's Jarrett Allen. That baby jumper goes, but the pressure for West Virginia seemed to have the desired effect. Sped up Texas at times. They had a tough time handling waves of pressure that West Virginia can send at you.
Texas got off to a terrific start. They got the first punch in, but they haven't been able to sustain it, Bob, because West Virginia did fight their way back into this game.
Adrian threw up an air ball, shot clock to 8, as West Virginia still has it. Adrian bounces one into a turnover. Here's Andrew Jones. He leans in. Carter got a hand on it, and Tariq Phillip was able to reject it.
Remember, 3-guard offense tonight because Issa Ahmad sitting down.
Adrian left alone, hits a 3.
What a career this guy's had, Bob. He's only the second player in 60 years from Morgantown High to get a scholarship to West Virginia.
Eric Davis turned it over as we take a look at our first half stats. Brought to you by Tic Tac. Again, Texas had the 10-point lead, but look at the run for West Virginia to end the half.
Terrific, and they responded really nicely. I think the biggest thing that's impressed me is how efficient they've been on offense. They don't take bad shots.
Baxter Miles comes up short. Here's a run out for Jones. And a foul was called, an intentional foul at that. So it will be free throws and the ball for the Longhorns as Jones will go to the line.
Baxter Miles grabbed the jersey from behind. An easy call made by Darren George. Got to be smart enough to let that play go.
The second, keep on number 1. Line for Texas, Jones, 2 shots.
This could be a turnaround for Texas and for West Virginia fans. If you haven't followed their week, especially, the Mountaineer faithful right now believes no lead is safe because they watched them squander away a 14-point lead with 2:44 to go on Big Monday last week and lose in overtime. And what a heartbreaking loss it was for the Mountaineers at Allen Fieldhouse to Kansas. And then they had a 6-point lead late in the second half to Texas Tech. Lost that lead as well. Eventually prevailed in double overtime. But they have not finished games lately. Roach cross court to Davis. In and out. Offensive rebound. Andrew Jones. The putback is good.
Nice effort. Ball came off softly and Jones snuck in there. 3-guard offense for Texas.
Carter cuts to the bucket and is fouled on the floor. Kerwin Roach picks up the personal.
Number 12, Kerwin Roach, called for the personal is first.
First on Roach. Carter fades away. Yes.
Javon Carter.
Here comes the press set up off the made basket.
Yeah, not coming and doubling as much. Watch Adrian, he's lurking. Now he comes. It's random. He comes late.
And gets a deflection. Eventually a turnover as Shaq Claire was not ready for the pass from Eric Davis.
Last year, Jonathan Holden was on the point of the press. He's a more athletic player than Adrian. But you saw a great example in that last press of why Adrian is so cerebral. He waited till the last moment to trap, and he caused that turnover.
Macon, yes, and West Virginia sets up the pressure again.
That looked familiar, that move, Bob? Macon with 17 on Saturday.
Foul called on Carter on the reach-in.
Watch Macon, quick move. Now he got hit below the waist on this move. But watch the quick move over Shaq Clear. Needed to catch his breath a little bit, but boy, people were excited over the weekend about his performance on Saturday.
His second career double-double, first this season, 17 points and 12 rebounds against Texas Tech, and brought a different energy level, especially at the offensive end for West Virginia. Allen steps out along two, connects.
Bob, he makes 50% of his two-point jump shots, and that's a 6'10" guy.
Myers, nice crossover. Macon, nice touch. The soft jumper from Elijah Macon. He's got 6, perfect from the field.
Well, other than Elijah Macon, there's nobody happier watching this kid play well than Bob Huggins. He's known this young man since 8th grade. Came to camp when he was younger, and he's paying it off tonight.
How dangerous will West Virginia be come March Madness time? Joe Lunardi. He'll join us when we come back, getting ready from the bunker to talk Big 12 in Morgantown. And Joe Lunardi is in the Infinity Bracket bunker, kind enough to spend some time with us and talk some Big 12 bracketology. And Joey Brackets, my first question deals with West Virginia. They're a very interesting team. They've got 5 losses to unranked teams. They've got a win over Baylor and Kansas when those teams were both number 1 and number 2 respectively. So how does the committee, how would you look at that? What matters more, those losses to unranked teams or wins over teams that are at the top of the poll?
Bob, I think what we've seen the most in recent years are that the wins matter more to the committee. And they probably should, because it shows your upside. But let's be mindful, West Virginia's done a lot of that at home. They're still very, very good and very, very dangerous, I think. But the committee will take that into consideration. They'll also take into consideration not so much the losses, but the overall strength of schedule for the Mountaineers, which, to be kind, out of conference was very weak. And I have a little thing, adjusted record, where we take out home wins over sub-200 teams. That drops WVU's record from 21-6 to 14-6. So the committee will know that also.
Hey Joe, let's work reverse psychology. What would Kansas have to do to not be a number 1 seed?
I think they'd have to get passed by somebody at this point, and I'm not sure who that would be, Fran. Villanova is going to be a number 1 seed. The winner of the ACC most likely is going to be a number 1 seed. Gonzaga, short of a complete catastrophe, is going to be a number 1 seed. And Kansas, now that it is separated in the Big 12. I suppose you could make a case for an Arizona or an Oregon making a late charge, winning the Pac-12 regular season and Pac-12 tournament. I just don't see it happening given Kansas' dominance of the Big 12 over such a long period of time.
And how likely would it be that Kansas will end up in the Midwest, where they potentially could play at the Sprint Center in the Sweet 16 and Elite 8?
Extremely likely, if only because all of the other number 1 seed candidates, and none of them really have the Midwest as kind of their natural landing spot. You know, Gonzaga is going to be in the West, Villanova is going to be in the East, the ACC winner is probably going to be in the South. Even when Baylor was sharing the top line with KU, the Bears were in the South. So if I'm a Kansas fan, I'm feeling pretty good about making those travel plans.
And Kansas, obviously, Joe, I'm assuming, is getting that respect based on the league that they play in the Big 12 this year. Only 10 teams. It seems like there's quality all the way through the league. And maybe you can give us the wide-angle lens view of the teams that are on the bubble, the teams that still have work to do, and how many you think from this league eventually are going to make it into the field.
It's been sitting right at 7 now for several weeks, but I would caution Big 12 fans, Kansas State and TCU both hovering in the 500 range in league play and with really unattractive non-conference schedules. Same with Texas Tech, who we're watching tonight against Iowa State. All of these teams have good wins because it's pretty hard to be around 500 in a Big 12 and not have good wins, because you're playing tournament-level teams pretty much every night. But if any of those teams is really close to the cut line, the committee has shown us in the past that they really do look at non-conference schedule strength.
And Bob, Joey, Bob and I were talking about this today. Oklahoma State started out 0-5 in conference play, and they're one of the hottest teams in the country. We know that the committee doesn't look at the last few weeks of the season anymore, but assess their chances for us.
They don't have last 10 games or last 12 games, Fran, as an official category anymore, and that came about as these unbalanced schedules in conferences would maybe give a team an easier or a more difficult path late in the year and skew that record. But, I mean, I think they have the internet in the committee room, and they're going to know that Oklahoma has played really, really well down the stretch. I've got them now as a 7 seed, and this is a team that just got to 500 in league play. It's been that kind of year.
Joe Lunardi with us from the Bracket Bunker. Bob Wischusen and Fran Fraschilla, Holly Rowe here in Morgantown. And, Joe, one last question from me. Emblematic, I think, of a weird kind of year, right? That this is a little bit of a softer bubble, not as many mid-major teams that may get those at-large bids, because you have either on the bubble or in the field, Kansas State, TCU, Texas Tech as examples from the Big 12. They're all below 500 in league play right now. How often do you think we may see that in this field? Below 500 conference records making it into the field.
The average is a little over 1 per year, and we're going to blow right through that, Bob. And, you know, I've long been an advocate that you should be 500 in league play to be tournament eligible, including conference tournament games. I think it would just add a lot of interest and attention to these late season games and early round conference tournament games. But I'm pretty sure that I don't have a vote. So what matters is, why are these spots available? In part, the mid-majors that you talked about. In part, as conferences expand, it's easier to pile up quality wins because the league schedule is expanding. You know, it used to be 12 games, 14, 16, 18, whatever. And we've got a couple of traditional multi-big conferences like the American and the Atlantic 10 that have gone 4, 5, or 6 deep in recent years, only looking to be 2 or 3 deep. So there are spots to be had for teams that finish well.
Interesting. Joe, thanks so much for the time. We appreciate it. It's going to be a really interesting Selection Sunday.
You bet.
And this could be a very interesting season for West Virginia if Lamont West shoots it like that. He's got 6 threes, a career-high 23. Part of a big night right now for the Mountaineers.
When it comes off his hands, Bob, it looks like it's going in. He's got great shooting form.
A player that only had 1 game in double figures in the last 13. It was that 21-point effort against Oklahoma State.
Remember, he only plays 11 minutes a game because of the depth of this team.
Foul called. It will stay with Texas when we come back, but West Virginia opening up a 64-47 lead on Big Monday.
ESPN's exclusive presentation of college basketball is brought to you by Phillips 66.
To you by Northwestern Mutual. Simple plan, get the ball to Lamont West.
Well, it's fun to watch this guy, Bob. Remember, he redshirted last year, and he's only playing 11 minutes a game because this rotation is so deep. But he's got a great stroke. He's an athlete, and when you talk to the coaching staff, they absolutely love his long-term potential. And this is great to see from this young man waiting his turn.
Holly, a player with a lot of potential.
That's right, but a concern right now, you'll see he's kind of gingerly walking over to the bench right now. He came off the floor after that last timeout limping. He was seen to by the athletic trainer in the huddle. He gave him some kind of an oral medication. I saw Lamont tell one of his teammates the inside of his right knee is bothering him. We'll see if he can return.
Well, it must be comforting for Bob Huggins to lose Issa Ahmad to back spasms, and you have got a very talented freshman in Lamont West to go to, see if he can get back in the game, as a foul is called on Konate. Issa Ahmad Not playing tonight because of back spasms, but the depth that this West Virginia team has shown up, Brent, all year long.
I could see Issa Ahmad playing power forward next year with West at the small forward, but it really doesn't matter because of the way they play so many players in and out of the lineup.
Jared Allen turns it over.
Texas foul. This is number 31, Jared Allen.
He's immediately called for the foul. His second.
Watch Adrian here, a little triangle offense, good post feed.
Konate turns it over. He walked. That's only the 7th West Virginia turnover.
Now you mentioned it earlier, Bob. As good as the pressed Virginia defense is, I think this offense is better this year than it's ever been. They don't turn it over. They shoot it better. More scorers.
Andrew Jones.
Well, Allen and Jones, 2 McDonald's All-Americans a year ago. I'm almost sure Jones will come back. Not a lot of market for him just yet. Allen, another story. This is what we call motion offense right here. 5 moving.
Adrian gives it up. Carter trying to beat the timer and does. Great ball movement again by West Virginia.
Absolutely. Inside out. Suck the defense in, and this West Virginia team, when they play their best, they don't beat themselves on the offensive end.
And then a 5-second violation.
Checking in for about here, Magic Bender.
You know, I don't want to say they don't miss Issa Ahmad tonight, but when you have the amount of players who play the minutes that this team plays with, you see Brandon Watkins to Ahmad's right. He started some games. It's almost like rotating defensive linemen in football when you got 8 or 9 of them.
And yet none of them with the heralded credentials coming out of high school that even Texas has. And Texas has McDonald's All-Americans. They've got top 30 players on their team. Jared Allen was the #1 recruit at center in America. Bob Huggins doesn't have players with resumes that even approach that. And yet year after year, he finds a way to mold this team into this kind of fine-tuned machine that presses and traps and gets turnovers, and they just keep on winning.
Yeah, and you know, they do a great job of locating guys that fit not only the system, but guys that can be coached hard by Bob Huggins, because he will coach you hard.
Guys, to follow up on what you're talking about, we toured the Bob Huggins facility today, his beautiful practice facility, went through his office, and I saw a big sign on one of the graduate assistants' offices with the definition of prima donna, and then also a little thing that talked about the disease of me. They actively preach that this is about all of us. We're better as an ensemble. And, you know, Shaka Smart of Texas even appreciates what West Virginia's doing. When guys come in and they're playing only 10 or 11 minutes, but they're giving it 100% out there, high energy. They are so deep and so good. That is avoiding the disease of me. It's all about team for this West Virginia group.
That was an interesting observation by Shaka Smart, the reverse dunk by Jared Allen. But he did mention that it's so impressive to see players play 10, 11, 12 minutes a night like a Lamont West, and yet not see selfish tendencies, not see a disruption of chemistry, that they all seem to do it and do it enthusiastically. And that says a lot about not only Bob Huggins, but the kinds of kids he gets to come be a part of his program as Konate uses the glass.
There's an old saying, Bob, the whole is greater than the sum of the parts.
Yep.
That describes West Virginia basketball in few words.
Roach draws the foul. Well, tomorrow night, catch another Super Tuesday doubleheader. It starts at 7 Eastern in the SEC. South Carolina takes on a Florida team that's won 8 in a row, and then Indiana and Iowa will cap the night in the Big Ten. Super Tuesday on ESPN, as well as streaming live on the ESPN app and Watch ESPN. Jones turns the corner. From the corner, Eric Davis. Yes.
That time West Virginia, good defense, but they overhelped, left Davis open. Davis, Roach, Jones, they've got to have big off seasons.
Tariq Phillip tries to wrap a pass around and misses Bender underneath. You know, you say a young player has to have a big offseason. When a coach tells a freshman becoming a sophomore, this is the definition of a big offseason, what boxes have to be checked?
Well, first of all, incredible work ethic. You got to be there every day. You can't get better unless you're in the gym. You got to get with the strength coach. You got to assess with the coaching staff after this season, what are my weaknesses and what do you want me to get better at? And I don't care if it's Frank Mason, Buddy Hield, Perry Ellis, you know, Naz Mitru Long. The fun part about watching this league is to see guys from their freshman year to their senior year grow up, Bob. It's not like instant oatmeal where you just put the hot water in and stir it around. It takes a lot of work to become a really good college player.
And how much of that work happens from, say, you know, June through September as opposed to what we get a chance to call all season long?
I would say from the 2 weeks after the season until September, you know. By the way, these guys at West Virginia, it's steel cut oatmeal, you know.
Shot clock under 10 for the Mountaineers. Carter picks up his dribble. Now he needs some help. Davon Myers lost it. That'll be a shot clock violation. Question, of course, for Texas, will they have Jarrett Allen next year? We were all 19, 20 years old once. Oh, to be 20 again. What advice would you give yourself, much less Jarrett Allen? We'll let you know.
And moving forward.
You agree with this prognostication from Chad Ford? Basically, right in the middle of this grouping of other freshmen that he has going from 11th through 16th with Allen on that board.
The 2 or 3 or 4 NBA scouts I trust the most have him between about 17 and 23. Now that's about $4+ million over the 3-year deal. And it's a tough decision because if it were my son, I'd probably tell him to go to the NBA because of the money involved. His long-term ability to get better and have a more enjoyable college experience, help Texas back and win next year, then you come back to school. He's an interesting kid because he's very bright. He's got a lot of different interests, but next year he's not going to help an NBA team very much. It'll shock me if he doesn't play a lot of D-League basketball.
Holly?
Well, I actually talked to Jarrett Allen at practice today about his plans, and he said, you know, it's never been on the top of my mind. I've heard other people talk about being a one-and-done kind of guy, but that's not how I approached college when I decided to attend college. Shaka Smart said, at the beginning of the year, what is your goal for this season? And Jarrett said, I want to be the best freshman I can be. I want to enjoy my college experience. And I said, what are your parents saying to you? And he said, they're telling me not even to think about it. Keep focused on the season and enjoy college. So we'll see what happens when he has a little more time to think about it in the offseason.
That's the right attitude to have.
Oh, it's a great attitude. And he's a great young man. You know, we've been around this kid on the high school circuit, and what you see on a nightly basis, Bob, as he checks back in, is glimpses of long-term greatness. Now, trust me when I tell you, in the NBA next year, if he's on a roster, he is going to get beat up and mauled by more physical players. And then the team is going to say, we're not playing you much, so we're going to send you to the D-League for 5 or 6 or 7 games. But when he's 25 years old and he's 260 pounds and he's got that length and athleticism, I think he's going to be a very good player in time.
Well, you know, one guy he is planning to reach out to at the end of the season, Fran, he hasn't talked to him yet, but Miles Turner from Texas had a very similar experience, so he plans on getting Miles' feedback on how his experience has gone leaving early.
Sad Konate was called for that third foul that set up the free throws for Texas. And here's a good comparison to see similar players, similar numbers, and where they went in the draft.
2 really good players. Holly, what did Kevin Durant tell Rick Barnes that rookie year in the NBA?
Well, you know, I'll never forget it. We were at Texas one day, and Rick Barnes said, I just got off the phone with Kevin Durant. He's playing in Seattle, and he was near tears. He can't believe that these guys in the league don't want to win, and he's so frustrated at how lack of competitive they are and how they didn't care after losses. So I know Kevin Durant had a rough learning curve his rookie season about the other guys in the league.
He does some things that amaze you, Jared Allen. Remember the game at Kansas early in the year when he dominated KU 22-19.
How about that dunk we saw in the first half? That athleticism alone. Well, now he's out trying to stay with Adrian as Texas is trying to work their way back in the game, down by 13 with 6 minutes to go. Adrian goes right at Allen, spins a little too strong, and the rebound pulled down by Eric Davis.
Hey, if Texas gets a couple stops and scores, they can be back in it.
Andrew Jones, high off the glass, gets his own miss. Good pump fake. Obviously, Jared Allen has a decision to make, and not every decision that we make when we're 19, 20 years old is a good one. So we figured, let's go back. What decisions would we maybe make if we could do it all over again?
Who's that?
19 or 20 years old.
Who's the beautiful blonde on the right?
I would ask Holly Rowe, I guess. Holly, my question would be, that night, how was the Slayer concert?
I'm just sad you didn't show my cute midriff shirt when I was rocking some abs. That was the real part of that picture. No,
all right,
the
Holly,
decisions of my hair alone would tell you that I was an idiot.
I would ask you, all right, Holly Rowe's 20 years old and could tell herself one thing. What would you tell yourself?
Wow, don't get that permanent.
I got one.
I would say from my standpoint, based on the picture you just saw of me, it would be to not allow the fact that your milk money was taken to bother you as much as it did back then. How about a young Fran Fraschilla?
Life is about passion and perseverance. Find something you love and work your tail off at it. And for all these young men that have a chance to be good NBA players, that's what it is. Love the game and put work into it. And I think that's true for life, you know. Find something you really love to do, and it takes a lot of work.
Adrian, in and out for three. Foul called, and that's going to go against West Virginia by Darren George making the call, but it looked like two Texas players ran into one another as Jared Allen went down. We'll have to take another look and see.
Take a look. Where'd he go?
That's not a foul on West Virginia. That's a foul on James Banks on Jared Allen.
Maybe they're playing billiards tonight.
They called Elijah Macon for the foul. That's his fourth. So Macon has to go to the bench. And this is Jared Allen at the line to try and cut the lead down to single digits with 5:18 to go.
Those two free throws, if he had made both, would have got it under double figures. We've seen this show before, haven't we, Bob?
You can sense there's a little tension in this crowd here in Morgantown because they feel like they've seen comebacks before as Javon Carter hits a big shot. Eric Davis right at Watkins with the left hand.
Nice move by Davis. He's done a good job tonight. We talked about how young this team is, one of the 12 or 13 in the country. They got a kid sitting out from Tulane, Dylan Ozakowski, who we've watched practice, is 6'9" and a monster, and would have really helped this team this year.
Bob Huggins wants further explanation about the fourth foul called against Elijah Macon as West Virginia holding on to the lead.
ESPN's exclusive presentation.
West Virginia with an 11-point lead. They have survived several comebacks by Texas, but earlier tonight a scare as Bob Huggins had his team out on the floor. This was before halftime. They were on their way back out after a timeout, and his defibrillator activated, and he, based on that shock, went down on his knees. His team obviously thought it was something far more serious, as did Shaka Smart, as did everyone inside the WVU Coliseum. But Holly Rowe, we all breathed a sigh of relief when we saw Bob Huggins immediately shake that off.
That's right. He told me at the half that I'm fine, but I did hear an assistant coach telling someone that it felt like somebody slammed him in the back. It really surprised him. That was his reaction. I did check on what a defibrillator actually does. You can implant them in your chest, and it will help shock your heart back into a normal rhythm if you have a heart arrhythmia. So that appears to have been what happened with Coach.
You know, Bob Huggins and John Calipari have been friends for 35 years and kind of friendly rivals. When Bob Huggins had his heart attack at the Pittsburgh International Airport back in 2002, they put him in the ambulance, and as he's in the ambulance, one of the paramedics said, "Coach, don't worry about it. I'm Coach Calipari's cousin. I'm not going to let you die until he beats you." Okay? Bob Huggins remembers it a different way. He said, "Once I found out it was Cal's cousin, I thought I had no shot to survive." And that's how those two guys kind of play with each other. But he did suffer the heart attack back in 2002. It really hasn't changed him as a coach. He's just as feisty and as aggressive as ever. And all of his friends have said, "Bob, you got to calm down." But that's not going to happen. He is who he is. And the guy's a winner, and I'm glad to see that everything looks like it's okay.
He's misunderstood. I mean, as someone who probably looks at him from afar, sees him kind of laying into his players during games, and he has that, you know, big kind of personality and persona about him, nicknamed the Bear. I mean, obviously it's, as the shot clock winds down for West Virginia.
Players love him. They love him because he gets the most out of them.
Can't hit the three. Rebound pulled down by James Banks. There's no question. You spend time around Bob Huggins, you end up with a completely different image.
You don't come to West Virginia unless you want the coach to push you. You know that's the bargain. If you don't want to be pushed every day in practice, you don't come to this school. But once you decide to come, I don't care if it's Nathan Adrian or Javon Carter or Deshaun Butler, he's going to get the most out of you for the time you're here.
Good to see Lamont West out on the floor again for West Virginia, shaking off the knee injury earlier in the game. Straightaway three, short from Phillip. West battling for the loose ball, and he draws the foul. Coach K against Coach Boeheim, and then Coach Pitino against Coach Williams. What a doubleheader that will be on Wednesday night. How about the 1 and 2 seeds according to bracketology with Joe Lunardi? Baylor losing that war of a game to Kansas over the weekend, drops off the one line back to a number 2, but still, that's a lot of respect given, and rightfully so, to the top of the Big 12.
Well, given what Baylor did in the non-conference, knocking off teams like Louisville, Michigan State's been down a little bit, but Oregon, when we saw them really early in the year, so not a surprise there. ACC champion, I believe, will be the 1 seed. It might be Carolina, it might be Louisville.
Javon Carter tried to get one to the corner to West. Down on the deck is Eric Davis, and it looks like he was on the sideline while he was holding the basketball. Only 3 seconds on the shot clock, unless the officials rule that Davis possessed the ball. And nope, they're going to say that he did not possess the basketball, so the shot clock stays at 3 for West Virginia.
Let's see what Adrian does here. He's a good passer. Nice.
Into Phillip, who'll drive it. Comes up short. Challenged at the rim by Jared Allen. Check that, James Banks. And it is a shot clock violation.
James Banks has done a really good job tonight protecting the rim particularly. He's really athletic. Offensive game is not caught up yet, but it's a young man that helped Shaka Smart win a gold medal at the under-18 FIBA.
Andrew Jones with the left hand. Down goes Adrian, pulled down by Allen, who immediately checks to make sure that he's okay. And the call was Allen for basket interference as the ball was up on the rim from the shot from Andrew Jones. Immediate sportsmanship showed by both players, though, as they hit the deck hard.
Let's see where that ball comes off, and he does touch it on the rim. It's a good call. You see Allen and Adrian tangle.
Texas creates the turnover. 3 from the corner won't go for Davis. Strong rebound by Elijah Macon, and he draws the foul. on Andrew Jones. Holly?
Well, guys, you mentioned earlier that West Virginia's had a few late game breakdowns lately. Their heartbreaking loss at Kansas last Monday, a double overtime game that they barely survived on Saturday. I asked Coach Huggins today, are you worried about fatigue right now? Your kids are very tired. Some played 47 minutes on Saturday, and he said, Holly, most of these guys think they're going to go to the NBA. How long's an NBA game? 48 minutes. Get over it. I have a feeling he delivered that same message to his team.
No, Holly, that's not it. A 48-minute game for these guys is like 1/3 of practice at West Virginia. It's easy. Well, and that's what you do as a coach. You make practice so hard that the games become easy. But he did give them 2 days off early last week after the Kansas loss. And, Bob, we were here Saturday. They looked like they had really good energy in that second overtime.
Three games in a row with at least 8 points for Elijah Macon.
How about Texas Tech and Iowa State going into overtime out in Lubbock? We saw how good that Texas Tech team was here on Saturday. Little 1-3-1 with Lamont West at the top.
A lot of time coming off the clock for Texas. Eventually, it's Davis for three, and it's pinned up against the glass. Possession arrow will give it to West Virginia.
Never a good place for your shot to end up right there. But a good effort by Davis tonight. Tell you how good a coach Bob Huggins is. They just played 1-3-1 defense, right? Lamont West at the top. He had never played 1-3-1 until he came to West Virginia. And that team that he inherited from John Beilein, they taught it to him.
Elijah Macon finishes. And that might be the exclamation point for West Virginia.
There you see they stay in that zone. Something for their future opponents to look at a little bit. Boy, how good has Macon been the last 3 games?
Tariq Phillip turns it over. Here comes Jones. Stripped away by Adrian.
That's what he does, Bob. He makes as many hustle plays as anybody in this league. Watch Adrian. Now, he even wants that ball. That might have even gone off Andrew Jones, and he begged for it. Didn't work, but the effort he's given. He's only got a couple more games in this building. This is a guy they booed in here when he was a sophomore. Holly?
Well, Fran, they did boo him going to class after that poor sophomore season. What people didn't know is he had a cyst in his wrist that he didn't tell anybody about, that he was injured. He had surgery, corrected that issue, and now he's the most popular player in Morgantown. In fact, there's a hashtag, Mayor Adrian. He played just up the street at Morgantown High School, where his sister Lydia is still playing, a 3-time state champion. He literally is the mayor of Morgantown. I didn't want to break it to you, Fran.
I got more pepperoni rolls than he does.
I think Franz thinks there's going to be a coup d'etat. The lob from Roach, he goes and gets his own miss. I think he was looking for Jared Allen on the alley-oop. Allen never left the deck. Down to a minute to go. West Virginia will improve to 22-6 on the season. 10-5 in league play. They had 13 wins in the Big 12 last year, 11 wins in the Big 12 in 2014-2015. Adrian comes up short from the corner, and this will be the 3rd straight year double-digit wins in Big 12 play. And our player of the game brought to you by Phillips 66. When they were down 10 in the first half, when they were executing their comeback, 6 threes made by Lamont West. What a night for the redshirt freshman.
Well, this is a guy that only plays 11 minutes a game. He's had some big outbursts this year, but he's patient. He's waiting his turn, and the proof's in the pudding.
Adrian read the alley-oop that time. Devon Carter dribbles down the clock to 3. The long jumper won't go. 6 seconds to go in the game, and here's Adrian hitting an offensive rebound and appropriately dribbles out the final seconds after the hustle play. And it's a 15-point win for West Virginia. Coming up on SportsCenter, you will hear Holly Rowe speak with Bob Huggins. That's coming up next. For Holly and Fran Fraschilla, I'm Bob Wischusen. Thanks so much for joining us. 15-point win for West Virginia. We'll be back with more from Morgantown, but right now, let's go to